Welcome to Beaded Doilies by Shell. In this video, I would like to show you several peyote patterns that I have beaded up using the right angle weave, or I prefer the cross weave, which is the 2-needle version of the right angle weave. Now, whenever you do a pattern or a design differently from the way the pattern shows you to do it, you should always give the designer of the pattern credit. For example, here, this first pattern was created by Caroline. She is the designer of the original design, and she deserves credit for having made the design. But here I'm going to show you it having been stitched up with the cross weave. Now, this was an even count flat peyote pattern. It was put up in Seed Beads Facebook group for the September 2019 bead along, and it was a sampler bracelet pattern, but as I was using larger beads and using the right angle weave instead of the peyote stitch, I knew it would be much larger than a bracelet, so I chose to make a scarf necklace. Here is the finished piece, and there are a total of 8 designs in this piece, and I made them 2 times to complete the entire scarf. Now, what I noticed while beading up this piece is that, as you can see here, the peyote designs are about 1 by 1, but when I beaded them up, they are about 1 by 2, and that gave me an idea that maybe any pattern, not just this one here was geometrical, so I knew it would work if I just did bead by bead, but maybe any pattern that's peyote could be done with the right angle weave. Then I remembered my kaleidocycle. This first one was created using peyote triangle designs, which I have listed credit for in my introductory to the Kaleidocycle video. And I thought, well, what did I do here? I did 2 beads going one direction and 1 bead going the other direction. That makes up for the 1 by 2 that I get when I do the cross weave. So I wanted to test it. Would it work on a regular peyote pattern? So I had been wanting to create some pods and stars. So I found this pattern. It is designed by Christy and was adapted for the pod by I'm not very good with names, but by this lady. And I found it at Seed Beads and More Facebook group. And this is a little fish pod. Not too easy to see in this light. But here it is, stitched up with the right angle weave. Now, what I noticed was a couple of small things, like the face here was a little off, and I also realized if the eye had been positioned slightly differently, it would not look as good as it does here, but it happened to land exactly perfectly for the perfect eye. And there were a couple of other small things that I saw. So what I did is, as the pattern was digital, I took a screenshot and put it in paint, and then I made a couple of adjustments with a dot of color changes in a couple spots, and then also some halves. What I wanted to do was, where I knew I was going to put 2 beads, I would do half one color and half another, kind of like in cross stitch when you do a half stitch. So when I did that, this is what I got. The face is a little clearer, and there's a part up here where it all sort of blends together and it separates out much nicer, and it worked out perfectly. So I'm actually going to switch forward to here. So what I have put up on my Pinterest account is a graph that when you're coming up to detail areas like eyes, face, things like that, you can graph it out ahead of time and see if you need to adjust the bead placement at all. So this you can find on my Pinterest account, which I will put a link up for. Now that I had done a pod, I wanted to do a star, and at the time that I was doing this pod, this pattern was put up in one of the groups. It is a pattern by the Tales of Beads, and it's a Lucky Cat pattern, and I knew my daughter would absolutely love it. So I thought, well, let's try it, and let's only make adjustments to the eyes, nose, and mouth, and leave everything else the same. There is one other thing I did is because of the way these are sewn together, I did remove during the stitching a row of beads, and I used that when I sewed the two together. But here is the results of the Lucky Cat. It is beaded following the pattern with only adjustments to the nose, mouth, and eyes. And as you can see, it came out beautifully. So this tells me that most patterns, there probably will be one here and there that you just simply have too many things that need to be adjusted. But most patterns, if you are a right angle weaver like myself, you can take all these beautiful cross weave patterns that you see and still bead them up. Now this is a star, and I only have the very first half done, and I do plan to do the second half. And with my pod, I actually stuffed it with faceted beads, but I don't like that idea because if one seam were to accidentally break, your beads would just go everywhere. So I have a plan for puffing up the star, and I'll probably change this one up too, and once I get that worked out, I will put up a video for that as well. But I just wanted to show you my Lucky Cat and show you that many peyote patterns can be done with the right angle weave. So if you are a right angle weaver just like me, all those beautiful peyote patterns that you see out there, you can do them. If you ever need any help, feel free to contact me and I will be more than glad to help you. But I hope that you find many beautiful patterns to bead up with the right angle weave. Happy beading!